Okay, so welcome today to another episode of The Little Classroom That Could. In this episode we're going to be discussing Stage 2 General Mathematics, in this instance Chapter 8D, looking at comparison rates. So before we start discussing exactly what comparison rates are, let's just paint a little bit of a picture. So when you have a mortgage, there will also be some fees and charges typically associated with it. So you might have a setup fee that you pay upfront at the start of the mortgage to start the mortgage off. You also might have a monthly fee that has to be paid for every month you have the mortgage to keep the mortgage going. You could also have, let's say, an annual fee, if that were the case, that gets added on annually. So all these sorts of things, we have to be able to model them somehow. So with the different mortgages that are available from different banks, they can offer different products. And that's what they're called in the banking industry, lending products or mortgage products. So we want a way where we can efficiently compare one package or one lending product offered by one bank with another. Now, as we said, one might have an annual fee and one interest rate. The other one might have another interest rate that might be slightly lower, but have a heap of fees. One might have no fees and have a slightly higher interest rate. We need a way to compare those evenly to figure out which is going to be the interest rate so which package is going to charge us the least amount over the term of the loan. Remember, that's what we're trying to optimise. We're trying to make sure that we don't pay more than we have to for our mortgage product. All right. So, in order to put this in a bit of context, this is the same way we did comparison rates with investment accounts. We're going to do the same thing now with mortgages. All right. So let's turn our attention to question 2. Here we're asked to calculate the comparison rate on a loan of $150,000 over 20 years for the following options. So we have 7.45% compounded monthly, with no setup and no monthly fees. Alright, so this is actually the definition, this first question here, of the comparison rate. So it's just a straight interest rate that allows for no setup and no fees and no charges. So the comparison rate here will actually be 7.45%, as it's stated. There we go, easy fixed. So option B, however, gives us a question here, 7.15% per annum, compounded monthly, with an establishment fee of $400 and a monthly service fee of $7. All right, we're going to have to tackle this problem in a couple of different stages. So first off, let's start setting up some information that we need and we know into TVM Solver. All right. Okay, so here we can see that I've got my compounding periods and payment periods per year being 12. Final value was 0. We solved for our payment to start with. Now, our present value of the loan is $150,400. Now, where's this $400 fee come from? Well, it's an establishment fee of $400. So what that means, it actually gets added on to the value of the loan at the start. All right, so there's our $150,400. Interest rate is 7.15, as is noted here, and we have a 20-year loan for 12 months per year, which equals 12 times 20 is 240. So if we stick that into our calculator, we find that we end up with negative $1,179, 62967. All right, there we go. So that's our monthly payment. And you go, okay, that's great. But what happened? So we've taken care of this piece of information. So now for case B, we've allowed for this service fee of $400. We now have to take account of the monthly service fee. So first off, we're going to leave some of these values the same. We're no longer going to solve for the payment, but the payment needs to go up by the $7 a month, because that's what we're going to be paying. So this will go to $1,186. Now, the starting value or the present value of the loan That needs to go back to $150,000 because this upgraded payment has made an allowance for that. Now we need to solve for the interest rate. Just going to rub off the last couple because we know it's going to be in the order of 7%. Alright, so plugging those numbers in, we end up with 7.26%. And if we write that over here, 0.26%. There we go. And as you might have spotted, B is going to be the better option. So there we go. B is the better option because its comparison rate is lower. So just going as a quick overview, when we do this, we need to first take account of the establishment fee to determine what the payment is. Then we alter the payment to allow for the service fee and reset the present value or the starting value of the loan to reverse engineer or calculate, determine the interest rate, arriving at 7.26%. Okay, so now let's turn our attention to question 5. So Lara wants to borrow $45,000 over 10 years to purchase a truck. She's researched the following options. Option 1, 9.75% with $23 per quarter, 9.64% per annum, both of them compounded quarterly, with a service fee of $30 per quarter as well, 9.55% compounded quarterly with an establishment fee of $900 and a service fee of $20 per quarter. So we're asked to calculate the comparison rate for each option. Okay, so now that we've got our information highlighted, let's start plugging our information into TVM Calculator. So compounding payments per year and compounding and payments per year will both be 4. Final value will be 0. The payment is what we'll initially try to resolve. The present value of the loan is what it starts off at, is $45,000. The interest rate for this first instance is 9.75%. And the number of terms we're told is 10 years at 4, so that should be 40. Alright, so plug and chug. Okay, so here we have minus $1,773 and 81,326. Alright, so now that we have our payment value, that's our interest rate taken care of, we now need to look at our payment per quarter. So we need to add our $23 onto here, which will take this up to 96. And we won't be solving for the payment anymore. We'll now look to solve for the interest rate. So this will be 96. Solve. We end up with 10.05539. Now when we round that up to our nearest interest rate, we end up with 10.1%. Alright. So now look at our I'm taking care of that. Let's look at our second instance here. So we've got 9.6. Let's change our figures around. So next, our interest rate, straight off the bat, will be 9.64, and we're going to be solving for the payment. Which comes out to minus $1,765, 56628. We need to add our $30 per quarter onto the top of that. This will take this 6 to a 9. And you can just slide over with your calculator cursor to do it. And then plug this. You end up here. Now we're going to solve for our interest rate. We end up with 10.033 388. When we do a rounding off, we come into here, and this becomes 10.0%. And look at our last instance, so it's 9.55%. So we're going to go back here, resolve for the payment value, remove this, reset the interest rate to its starting value, which is 9.55, and look up the payment. So that's there we go. Sorry, I forgot to allow for our establishment fee of $900. So this will go to a 9 there. That will look like. So this will be minus $1,794.01030. Alright, now we've taken care of our we've taken care of our service fee, our additional interest rate. We now need to look at our $20 per month. Remember, we need to reset this now. Back to here, we're going to leave our payments need to go up by our monthly service fee. So 79, that will go into 81. And need to solve this. Remember, we've taken out our establishment fee. So correct on that. That's 81. Go up and scroll. Boom. The answer we end up here, is 10.2841. So rounding that off, this is going to be 10.3%. Right, now that we've got everything in a base value, it's back to just an effective interest rate per year with no service fees and no establishment fees. We can look at, so what we've done here, we've calculated the comparison rate for everything. So which option should Lara choose? Well, we're looking at option B, so option 2 here, because that has the lowest comparison rate. So suppose the establishment fee for option 3 is waived. Does this make option 3 the best choice? Alright, so we need to go and run the numbers again. So we're looking at, let's go and reset our values. So interest rate goes back to here as being 9.55%. And we want to find the payment. Remember, we do not have to take care of an interest rate now. Sorry, an establishment fee. So I'll set this up in our calculator. 0.55. If I enter, so this will be minus 1,758.83363. We took our service fee of $20 a month, so this will go to 78. Changing that as just a single cursor item and resolving for this value gives us an interest rate of 9.81683. Alright, so if we look at that, rounding off to our nearest rounding off to one decimal point, we have that's 9.8%. There we go. So suppose the interest rate, so now that's a comparison rate when we've removed the annual service fee, the establishment fee. So this is now our better comparison rate. So does this make a difference? Yes. And since now Lara should in fact go with option 3 if the bank decided to waive their $900 establishment fee. That's obviously now the way to go.